share before the introduction of the panel. Actually, the what are the finding of the survey which you have responded yesterday and day before yesterday and even today, very quickly. So the question was, is a small and local companies, the layoff is real, medical layoff is real, and as you see here, 23% people says that it is bound to happen, and and 51% people says that already getting done. So this is a matter of concern. The small and local companies, half of the people says that already done, and remaining quarter says that it is going to happen anyway. So that is pathetic, and we need to debate on that, how to really solve them. We can't solve the problem of layoff ourselves, but at least we can think how to mitigate the risk to the professionals, the people who are getting layoff, how they can get skilled or do something to get the job. I'm getting problem. Just a minute. I'm asking Sankar to use mobile. If he can use your tablet. Uh, so, uh, so we see that the small and local companies, the situation is very grim here. What about the top 30 Indian company? Among the top 30 Indian company, I think the positivity is there. More than 54%, almost 55% people says that things will be normal in 6 months time. But still, there are 16, 17% people says that already getting layoff started, and remaining 14 says that it is bound to happen. So that's also a matter of concern to us. About the multinational companies, top 30 MNCs, situation is still better. That I mean to say that 46% people says that things will be normal after the 6 month. Mostly will be retained by the people. Hello. Yes. Menu. So MNCs companies situation is that half of the people says that things will be normal. That's a good part, but remaining half of the people has expressed the concern. In mid-size pharma company in India, is the layoff a real issue? Yes. Here are also the you see that 30% people responded that it is already done, and around 30% again, 28% says that bound to happen. That is again the concern area for us in as a professionals. This is interesting questions was asked here. Are the second land managers, third land managers are also getting affected? And most of you, 52, 53% people, 63% people says that yes, it is going to happen. However, 33% around people says that no, the land managers are not going to get affected out of that. So this is the brief about situation here. Now we'll about the mitigation strategy, which comes primarily from you, is that the reskilling is the solution. People need to get reskilled, and the employee, the professionals should take charge of that to getting reskilled. Uh, while according to you, what should be the optimum strategy for the companies? Here again, uh, the feedback is that train everybody in digital marketing and allied. That is the opinion of the people. Most people says that companies should equip the professionals, train the professionals, or they should also retain them with different kind of work, different kind of I mean function. There are many subjective response here also. This subjective response, I'm not going to read a lot, but this gives us a mix of the feeling. There is a positivity, ray of hopes, and there is a concern also. What I will do, maybe I will share to you these slides. I've compiled each and every feedback shared by you. I will, after this webinar, maybe I will share the entire slide to all of you to go through to have a deeper understanding about what the group feels, what the group thinks. With this, let me start the session now, because I see Shankar is also joined here now. So, welcome back, Shankar and Professor Vivek.
Thank you.
So, though I said both the panelists is well known to you, Shankar Das has a very long career in pharmaceutical industry. I have a fortune to work with him very closely in so many projects, and he is now heading CEO, CEO of Curatio. Professor Vivek is very known professionals he has been training many and developing managers for different roles, and you know that he's author of multiple books in pharmaceutical marketing and sales effectiveness. So who could be better person to help us to understand, to decipher the situation, which is very cloudy, lousy, gray, to move further. With this, I request Shankar to say something about the situation, how it is going to shape up in days to come, and then I would request Professor Vivek to share that what you thinks the things will come up or things will shape up.
Yeah. Thanks, Pranav, and let me first appreciate you for a very provocative title you have given for the session. And it is not surprising that many people have said that it is most sought after at the current context. So let me give my first comment that at this point of time in the last 2 weeks, I have interviewed at least 3 candidates for marketing team, okay, to recruit as brand managers. And certainly in the current context, we have almost 12 to 13 vacancies to be filled up. So these 2 statements I am making to give a sort of connectivity to the title question, that is the job of sales or marketing guy is in jeopardy. Having said that, I would also state the answer for the question is both yes and no. So in what way it is yes and what way no, I think as we proceed further, it will come out. But I very strongly remember that one very famous quote, that when the wind of change blows, some build the shelter and some build the windmill. So it is for us in pharma industry, there are many leaders in the pharma industry, for us to look at how we can create a windmill and in the process generate more energy. Because in my initial comment, even though the question is provocative and creates an anxiety or significant concern, I want to place in front of the audience who are listening to it that unlike certain other industries, let us say tourism or travel or automobiles, let us understand that the pharma industry had in the month of April, despite the lockdown, has sold to the tune of about 10,500 or 11,000 crores. Okay, so it is not zero, 11,000 crores. Yeah, it is minus 12% growth. But leave it aside, that this industry in this month of April, and I hope May will be a repetition of that, it has sold 12,000 crores worth of goods. Pharma industry became a sought after industry, the Indian pharma industry, among the very many countries in the world. The moment the name hydroxychloroquine was spelled out in one corner of the world, immediately the share prices of Ipca and very many companies shot up significantly. And very interestingly, the subsequent 2 days, many Indian formulators who are very strong in their international business, in the export market, multinational presence of Indian players, you will see that many plants got approval of FDA. Now, all these things point out to very, very significant scope and opportunity for the pharma industry. So it's a very common statement that is being made that the Indian pharma industry is the pharmacy to the world. So these are all on the positive side. Okay, so the truth lies in between, about which we can discuss the course of time. So my first take is, if the job is in jeopardy, my answer is not at all. There is no substitute or replacement for the role of marketing as well as for the role of sales. Sales is an outcome of continuity and consistency, and if when it is run by individuals, human beings, then there is a significant emotional bonding too. So there is significant science, logic behind choosing a particular product, but when it comes to choosing a brand, there is a significant role of a relationship playing in. So in my opinion, okay, there is no, and if there is a brand and there is a relationship, obviously there is a significant scope for marketing. So I will repeat, because I need marketing people and sales people, that there are adequate scope and opportunities in the pharma industry. Yes, there is going to be a new normalcy, which we will discuss as we proceed further in the discussion.
Great. Thanks, Shankar. Professor Vivek, what you see the changes you observe? Multiple companies, you interact with so many leaders of different company, be it a small company or MNC company. What is the undercurrent?
Before I come to the undercurrent of what's going to happen, let me start on a little lighter note. Today we are talking about working from home. But this working from home started many, many years back, maybe when the profession itself started. When I started my career as a medical representative, I was inducted into a very small company. I was based at Bhopal, and I was covering a territory right from Betul, which is in South Madhya Pradesh, to Gwalior, a distance of around 800 kilometers. And I covered places like Betul, Itarsi, Bhopal, Sagar, Gwalior, and all these places, they had medical representatives, guest houses where we stayed because they were cheap, and we met the people from the same industry. But one common thing about all these guest houses were the nocturnal activities. The nocturnal activities always started at around 8:30 in the evening with drinks and game of Teen Patti, and went on till around 6:37 the next day. After that, where is the energy to go to work? And people started working from home. So working from home is not with you, Philomena. But talking about jobs in jeopardy, these were the people whose jobs were actually in jeopardy. Coming back to a serious tone, today, jobs are in jeopardy for different reasons. And I back up with Shankar what he said a little while. They are not real threats. They are only perceived threats. They're only perceived threats. I can say there are three reasons, or I can organize these threats into three. First is digitization. Second is the COVID pandemic. These two are the perceived threats. And the third, which is a real threat, it is for those people who continue to remain hems. I understand many of you would have read the book Who Moved by Cheese, and in this book there is one character, Hem, who refused to change. So it is for this. Hence, in our industry, yes, the jobs will be in jeopardy. When we are talking about digitization, about a few months back, Doc Pixels carried out a survey, and they said that it was a study which was carried out on about 578 doctors who were MBBS and above, and it said that 68% of the doctors still prefer physical meetings of the doctors by the pharma reps. So where is the question of jobs being in jeopardy? Now, if you also add to this non-MBBS doctors, perhaps this 68% would even rise to 80%. Again, only 2 days back on 27th May, there was a report in Fierce Pharma. Fierce Pharma had carried out a big study, and in that Fierce Pharma study, they say that 78% of the physicians, they still prefer meeting the pharma reps physically. Now, digitally, they would prefer physical meeting. So if this is the vast majority of the doctors who still prefer to meet medical representatives and the field force, I don't think the jobs are in jeopardy. Of course, the roles may change, the roles may evolve. For example, tomorrow, the current marketing model may not be valid at all. Last 2 or 3 sessions, we have been talking about patient centricity. And if companies start adopting this patient centricity, naturally, it will involve a lot of interaction between the doctors and the pharma reps. That could be an online connect, which can bridge the gap between the doctor and the pharma reps. So jobs are not in jeopardy, it's only a perceived threat. I recall when we are talking about digitization being a threat to jobs, 1980s, there was a similar hue and cry in the banking industry. And in September 1985, the bank officials and the bank workers, they went on a 2-day strike to protest against computerization, fearing that their jobs may be at stake. But has it happened in reality? After that, the banks have really started flourishing. So this is again, digitization is a pursued threat. The real threat, the other second pursued threat is the loss of jobs because of COVID. That again is a fierce hypothesis which has been created in the social media. Of course, there has been a layout of around 150,000 people in the IT department, many in the hospitality. There is a layoff, but I don't think pharma in any way will be affected, except whom? I had read an article in Harvard Business Review 2002 by Michael Ed. He classified the entire workforce into A players, B players, and the C players. Who are those A players? They are the most competent persons in the organization. They go beyond the call of duty. They are what you call as the entrepreneur professionals. And these are the sort of employees who are most sought after by pharma companies. These A players, although rare and few, their jobs will never be in jeopardy. Then we have the B players. The B players are adequate, they are competent enough. They are not, maybe not as competent as the A players, but they are adequate to deliver whatever jobs have been assigned to them. Again, the B players, their jobs may not be in jeopardy. Then he talks about the C players. Who are the C players? They are grossly inadequate. They are underperformance. They have attitudinal problems. They are averse to new learnings. These are the people who probably their jobs are in jeopardy. And if these C players they rise from becoming to B players and A players, again they can be safe. Just as Michael Letts, he classified people into A and B and C. I would like to classify pharma companies into three categories. The A companies. Which are those companies? The A companies. They are the learning organizations for people where the management, they invest a lot in learning and development. For them, people come first. For them, people come first. And in these, they pay a lot of attention to their learning and development. And it is in these type of companies, I don't think anybody's job will be in jeopardy, except if they are the C players. Then comes the B companies. B companies are the big companies with a financial muscle, with a muscle of strong brands, and the muscle of strong brands and the financial will carry this company through this lean period. Here again, I don't think there will be jeopardy in the jobs. And the third is the C companies. Who are the C companies? I really do not know how many pharma companies are there in India. Some say it is 25,000, some say it is 30,000, and the estimate is even 45,000. But although their numbers are very high, they form the people in these C companies. They form a very small, minuscule amount of the field force. They are basically the PCD companies. Then those type of companies which do not invest in developing people, whose marketing model is based on transactional marketing, then trading prescriptions for goodies. These are the people who have not been taught to do anything else. They don't have, nothing has been done to develop new skills in them. People in these type of companies, possibly their jobs may be in jeopardy. This is what I have to say.
So, taking it forward, I have two divergent questions for both of you.
Sure.
For Shankar, I would ask that those companies, what Vivek says, C class of company, or we call it small company, who are laying off the people, I believe that their intention is not bad. They need people to grow. They are laying off because they are not able to manage P&L, not able to get enough revenue to retain the people, right? So what is your recommendation? How should they make a strategy to sail through this weather, this change scenario post COVID-19?
Yeah, so good question, Pranav. So I will slightly redefine these small companies in a different way, because I think even the company I come from now is a small company, but it is a big company in a specific segment.
Can I interrupt,
So it is
interrupt you? Can I interrupt you? I would place your company in the A category, because A, B, and C doesn't depend upon the turnover of the company. For example, another company which I would like to have in Group A, the A class company, is a company which is very closely associated, and that is Group Pharma. That turnover is even less than yours.
Yeah.
But they have a lot of human orientation. They care for the people. This company spends around 100 hours every year to develop the people. So
Yeah. I would say that irrespective of the turnover, it is if the company means something to some segment. Such a company will certainly be a company which will be in a position to manage. Now I will come to the second part, Pranav, which is more related to the financial health of the organization. And perhaps this COVID also creates an opportunity to bring in a discipline, even in those lesser turnover companies, to bring in a significant discipline on finances. See, the simple thumb rule is this: whatever sales you do, whether you are in a position to collect the money within the month, okay, within 20 days or 25 days, if the company is in a position to collect that money, much of the inventory is not as goods, but it is more as cash. If it is there, I don't think even a 30 crore or 50 crore company will be in trouble as long as they manage their cash flow very comfortably. Even if the company is, let us say, 1,000 crores and their cash flow is very bad, let us say that their money comes back to the company after getting into the market, they collect it only after 50 days or 60 days. I think that 1,000 crore doesn't matter. That company will certainly look at hiving out a division or hiving out a certain set of people, because there is no money available inside the company to pay for the vendors, to pay for manufacturing or procurement of the raw materials, and to pay for all the employees. So it is the financial health of the company, the health of the cash flow within the organization, which decides the decision on whether some people should be retained or somebody should be hived off. So even in a company which is now looking at trimming their field force, I think this is an opportunity for that company to look at strengthening their financial health, financial discipline, so that if COVID comes back after 1 year, which many pundits are predicting, then at that time they are not in trouble. So that would be my response, that it is the financial health and cash flow which decides the decision on hiving out to some people.
So this financial health and cash flow
Yeah.
is actually beyond the control of the sales marketing professional in the ground, right? So the companies should do something to make their sound financial decisions and cash flow. That's the one thing. So we'll come back to Shankar.
Wait, before that, can I say one thing?
Sure, please.
And I disagree with you. Cash flow depends on our field force. The collections which they get from
Yes.
from the stockists, that is the cash flow. So it is not just the finance department. The first line managers, they are, I would say, they are finance managers. They are responsible for the cash flow of the company.
I will add one more point on that particular question. As long as the prescription generation is healthy, I don't think any trader is going to hesitate to pay. Only when the prescription generation activity is disturbing, it is not at all healthy, and there are shortcut methods that are adopted for showing up sales, so that the goods are pushed to the distributors' shelves. That is where the cash is not going to come back to the company. So those companies, so there the field force also has a responsibility, and the leadership also has a responsibility, to the extent that why did they not bring in that discipline of you generate demand and supply as per the demand, instead of saying push the goods as much as possible. So to that extent, I will hold the leadership also responsible, but the field person is generally responsible for ensuring collection of the payment from the stockists. So cash flow, in a way, they certainly play an important role.
Interesting. Yeah, that's very, very important point you made, Shankar, which many times we don't pay attention to that. That's also important to make the cash flow in. Now, I see some of the comments here. Shantanu Bhattacharya's very important thing, he puts that. So I'm going to put that to the panelists here, is that this is a scenario where for last more than 3 months, medical reps are trying to connect with doctors, but they are not be able to effectively. Even the government of India, you saw the notification, the letter written to Pharmaceutical Association not to disturb doctor at this moment. So they are actually. I will say a story, very brief story on this here, very quickly. There was a woodcutter, and woodcutter was doing his job in a jungle, going and cutting tree. One of my friend who is an anthropologist here, he saw him and he approached him. He asked him, "How much money you make? What you are doing?" He said, "I make 500, 600 every day by cutting and selling it the woods to nearby village." My anthropologist friend said, "Okay, I will give you 600 every day. Would you do the same job for me?" He agreed that it is like getting a salary, right? Everyday salary secured, whether you are able to cut or sell or not, still you are getting 600 rupees. He readily agreed that. He came after cutting wood. First day he came in the evening to the anthropologist home and he collected 600 rupees. Every day he comes collect the 600 rupees. After 7-8 days, he said, "No, I can't work. I will not do this job." Why? He asked. "No, the axe which you have given is obtuse, is not a sharp axe." Actually, what anthropologists did, he has given a very sort of hammer, not axe to him, and asked him to hit the way he was hitting axe in the tree. So what I mean to say here is that the medical reps or any professional want to see the result of what he is doing. He want to see a larger purpose of it, what he is doing. If in this current scenario, if the people who are working hard to connect doctor and he's not getting enough response or positive response, or not able to get enough motivations to do that job, how to take it forward? So Shankar, what you see, what is your prescription to the professionals here
Yeah.
who are in the lockdown?
Yeah. So number one point. So this is, I will consider as a immediate, very current context, Pranav. And it is here, I think, more than the sales rep, it is the leadership and the organization should have a sort of empathy. Because even the doctor who is saying that don't come here or don't disturb me, I don't think he is deliberately doing it. The doctor is responding to a crisis situation. So at this point of time, he doesn't want to get affected by a professional whose only work is moving from one clinic to another clinic, and potentially the doctor wants to safeguard his clinic, himself, as well as the patients sitting in the clinic. Even now, I don't know whether 70% of the doctors have started their clinical practice, but assume that, in my opinion, maybe 25-30%. And in the interiors, the reception is much better. But having said that, every day they see only about less than 10 patients. So at that time, the representative, assuming that it is things as usual, okay, and trying to go and do that work, I think the resistance that the medical rep is facing is not surprising. It is not something one should not expect. Rather, the responsibility of the leadership and the organization is to give a set of guidance. Okay, so there are a couple of things which are likely to change, and it is linked to the guidance. I hope many of the audience, as well as both of you also, would have seen some amount of AWACS data. Within a company's portfolio, okay, you will find that the key brands, the brands with certain characters, those are the brands which are doing relatively well even in this current situation. Okay, so why I expect a representative to do the same type of task where when he enters into the clinic, he has to do a 10 products detailing or whatever I have given to him. Why not I tell him very clearly that these are the mandated brands, and this doctor, as per the RCPA, is the prescriber of this one of the mandated brand. Your task is to only to talk about it in whatever way. If he allows the bag inside, go with the bag. If he doesn't allow the bag inside, respect it. You just enter in and tell what you want to tell about that brand and exit. So that sort of adjustment is required for the immediate context. I am not suggesting this will be future, but in the immediate context, okay, the AVAX data is suggesting big brands are not getting affected. Okay, in any molecules category or other thing, the top 2 or 3 brands are not getting affected. It is all, the brands which do not mean anything to the doctor by character, either by prescription or by the segment. Those are all the brands. And in every company, there will be a long tail like this. The brands which are just there in the portfolio with a very weak market share. I don't expect the sales rep to concentrate on everything. What is very critical, and this I am talking out of my first 2 months experience. I know very well within our company what are all the brands which are doing very well, even in this difficult situation. So I can very comfortably say that sharpen your focus, and maybe that the focus is just one brand or 2 brands, and do that communication delivery respecting the sentiments of the doctor, the way he wants it. And if he is not going to allow you to talk about it, it is also good and fine. Come out of that. And that's where I am bringing in a leadership to give that understanding to the people and prepare the salespeople for that type of a work. But certainly, whether effort should be made to meet the doctor, because now 2 months are behind us, I think the effort should be made so that the doctors will also bounce back. Now everyone is in a gloomy mood. So the more and more 2 or 3 people start coming to the doctor's clinic, okay, that vibrancy will not come down. Whether you like it or not, I love the rep's job. Okay, the guys bring lot of vibrancy. So I think, despite these initial difficulties, things will change. Leadership should give that comfort to the sales team and coach them for adapting to the situation in their communication style. That would be my response, Pranav.
Okay, so I would pause here for few comments, and happy to say that we have international participant in this conference also. So Mir Arshia Jaman from Bangladesh, I believe, he puts that the prescription based business is suffering in his country. I think same is the case in our country as well. And two areas I see here concern is dental because the dental hospitals practices is totally closed.
Yes.
One of my participants has written about a company. I'm not naming the company because I don't have confirmed news that they have totally closed the gastroenterology division and terminated all 100 medical reps. So these are the things which are very, very shocking, disturbing news for us being in this industry. And so let me ask a questions to my audience first, and then this question will go to Professor Vivek. The same questions to elaborate on that. Shankar talked about the role of leadership, and actually he talked about the role of marketing department also, the head office also, the product management team who are accountable to give a character to a brand, who are accountable actually to see the long-term perspective of the brand. So my question is that is the job description of PMT, product management team, whether it's a brand manager or marketing manager or a general manager marketing or VP marketing, is going to change? Yeah, I see response. So all of you who can see below the video, this question is there. You can touch and respond that. Okay, so I'm ending the poll now. I saw the very good response came up here, and here is the result. 55% people says that to a large extent the role of the brand managers, the PMT as a whole, is going to change, and 44% says that to some extent. Nobody says that no. So it is going to change the role of a marketing manager. We are talking about the head office now, the people who are managing the brand, who are managing the communications which is carried by the medical reps and line managers to the doctors. So Professor Vivek, what you see here, which type of new skill or new knowledge or new attitude should be incorporated in the job description of a marketing manager? And this question again, I would ask same questions to Shankar also. So first, Vivek, please.
The new skill which we have to bring in is about developing customer relations management. As I said a little earlier, the marketing model may change and we may have a lot of patient-centric activities. And in these patient-centric activities, probably uh, the roles which the brand managers have today will be different from what they will have in the future. The same roles which they have may not exist, and they have to upskill themselves and be ready for the forthcoming roles which they have.
Okay.
Can I add a few points?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so I am making it very specific, and in this series of discussion related to the marketing, I think many of the participants, I have seen that people like Salil and all have joined. So certainly the new skill of how the digital medium is working. So I think that this is going to be strongly embedded in each of the brand manager in the coming days. Now, when I look at the youngsters, from many management institutes, they are coming with a certain amount of understanding of how a search engine operates, what is the power of social media. They are coming with that. But I am seeing and I expect that the brand managers' awareness, as well as to take decisions based on the data that they get from a search engine or data that they are going to get from one of the commerce portal, and the way they are going to take decision on that, this requirement is going to intensify, and this is one thing which will become part of the job of the brand manager in future. So a brand manager who is having this idea about how it works and who is very comfortable, fluent, like it's a behavior, they are the people who are going to exceed in this task to manage the marketing in future. Having said that, let me also say that it is not that the digital medium is going to replace the human being or human driven sales process. Like I made in my initial comment, the sales is an outcome of the logical process of science and the emotional process of an individual bringing in that consistency and continuity relationship. So to that extent, digital is going to be a add-on tool and maybe a significant add-on tool in the coming days. So the role of the brand manager also is going to how he engages the sales team in order to be prepared for what are the digital initiatives that are happening around them. If you look back around 15 years ago, maybe late 90s or early 2000s, the brand managers were very comfortable in terms of running a CME. Whereas today running a CME is very, very difficult because no doctor shows interest to come and attend a conference on a weekday or on a Sunday also. But if you go deeper into it, the brand managers at that time prepared themselves on how to engage the sales guy to ensure that the CME meeting goes on very well. The same type of effort for the new medium is required, and for that, the knowledge as well as the fluency of the digital medium is one of the must-have skill for the brand manager.
Okay, so again, nice to note here is that we have participants from another neighboring country, Nepal. So welcome Diwakar Rijal from Nepal, and he has a comments that the psychiatry is a discipline where they don't encourage, they don't actually care about the medical reps on the pharmaceutical company. They don't listen it. And this situation of COVID, obviously they become much more averse to meeting the medical reps. So he asked that, what is your thought in addressing this situation? Uh, this is a good question. Uh, how you see, Professor Vivek? Not only psychiatry. If you can briefly talk about any specialty doctors in any country, India or Nepal or Bangladesh, if he is not responding medical rep, what's the option to pharmaceutical company? And there is a tag question from my side also. My question is that why should a doctor should listen to a pharmaceutical company?
I'll come back to that study of Fierce Pharma, where they said that 78% of the people, they would still like
Hello.
78% of doctors would like to meet medical representatives. There's one more point over there which I didn't mention. Out of these 78%, 49% of the doctors said that they would like the pharma companies and the medical representatives to help them in patient assistance, aiding the patients. I have done it. I was in the neuropsychiatry of CNS, and I remember we had introduced a product for Parkinsonism then, way back in 1990, called Sandopa. It was for Parkinsonism. And we had a tough competition from Cenemet of Merck. What we did, Parkinson's disease is a lifelong disease. We organized a Parkinson's club in many of the big cities. And in these Parkinson's club, we invited the patients every fortnight. Two things happened there. In these Parkinson clubs meeting, they were addressed either by a neurophysician or by what you call a physiotherapists who are specialized in CNS therapy. And second, more than that, one Parkinsonism patient meeting another, their interaction, telling their problems, knowing their problems, it gave a tremendous relief to the patients. The interaction between the peer group, that itself gives a lot of comfort to the patient. And this is exactly where this is exactly what the doctors want. When I'm speaking to my friend from Nepal that they don't want to see medical representatives, why don't you try these type of clubs for two of the most important diseases in the neuropsychiatry? For example, you can have for depression, where one depressed patient, he meets another, they exchange. You can have it for, say, patients with OCD, obsessive compulsive disorders. Doctors will be happy if you just go and tell them that I want one prescription per day, and if you don't prescribe my product, I may lose my job. If these are the kind of dialogues which will, then naturally you are unwelcome. We have to care for the patients, and the day will come, patient centricity will really take over the kind of marketing which we have today. And that is where the brand managers have to prepare themselves. They have to educate the field people. It is not just digital marketing, it is phygital marketing. Physical meeting of the doctors, backed up by digital support. Of course, it's always better to have separate digital teams. I really do not know whether our current brand managers in our country or even in Bangladesh or in Nepal, they are skilled enough to carry out digital marketing activities, because that requires a different skill, and our brand managers traditionally have been trained for that. That is one change which the leadership can bring about.
Great, thank you. We have another colleagues from Nepal, Hemraj Sharma. There are many people. I see the questions and comments. I may not be able to take those questions and comments. My next question is inspired by Dipesh and my friend Pawan Kulkarni. So there is a stark change which is triggered now with COVID, but that need has been there for ages. Actually, I'm going to ask that questions. I will wait Shankar to join before asking the question, because
Can you repeat the question? There was some disturbance. I couldn't hear the question.
I have not spoken the question yet. What I am saying that in last couple of months, the things had changed, and the change demands more role to the brand manager. Deepesh has actually written here very clearly. Brand manager must get more power to sales manager than sales manager to drive sales, and it looks unrelated what Pawan says, but I see a relation there. Pawan Kulkarni says, who is heading the marketing strategy, the strategy in a JB Chemicals himself. He says that companies should now think to have PR, the public relations, a messaging medium in crisis. Many habits breaks and many new will be created. So what I mean to say here is that the brand managers, the marketing managers should take charge of sales performance more proactively than they are taking currently. Right now, I was insider in pharmaceutical company. I see the different perspective of the sales management and the brand management. Oh, Shankar is back here. Shankar, this question for you, and this is the last question we can take because of the time. Question is that it came from the audience, multiple question. I'm combining that together. Question is that should brand management, I think I lost him, so by the time he joins again, Vivek can respond on that. Should the brand management take more responsibility, because here he can connect digitally with the large number of doctors. The hierarchy is not there when you connect digitally. You don't need a physical persons every time to communicate with your customer. So if you are getting more power, why don't you take more responsibility for the sales performance also? What is your say, Professor Vivek?
I'll respond to Deepesh's question about giving more power. Power and authority cannot be given. We brand managers, when I say we, including me, because I'm by heart a medical representative and a brand manager, we can get power and authority only through trust. And if we are able to create that trust in our people, we get that power. Brand building, let me say, is like a chariot race with two horses. If you have seen the movie Banner and you have seen the famous chariot race, it's a beautiful movie which I saw about 60 years back, and the chariots were and the horses were running. Now, if one horse runs at 80 miles per hour and the other at 120 miles per hour, what's going to happen? It's going to collapse. The chariot is going to collapse. So similarly, brand building is like running a two-horse chariot. One horse are the brand managers, the marketing managers, and the other, the first line managers. Both have to run the same speed. Brand managers have to give them strategies, top-class strategies, which are executable, and the field managers, the first line managers, they have to execute those strategies. Only then you can build a strong brand. It's not that I give more power to the brand manager, the brand will be built, or I give more power to the sales managers. The sales managers, they have the power and authority. They have to be like titleless leaders.
Yeah, in between,
So,
now you can ask me.
yeah, so straight question, that would be last question for Shankar.
Yeah.
Before I ask Shankar, I would like to make an announcement here. This same topic in a different form, slightly changed form, we will continue the next week also. And I'm happy to announce that one of the panelists who is joining next Friday is the president HR of a big company. I'm not naming right now. He agreed to join next Friday. He's the president HR in a big Indian company. He worked in the multinational company as well. And the other panelist who will be joining is from Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore, professor in leadership. We saw that there is a leadership role required in this scenario. So I roped in a professor from IIM Bangalore to talk on that. Now the last question of this debate today, I'm asking Shankar. Shankar, in the change scenario, the hierarchy is blurred. Actually, with the digital connect, engaging digitally, and with so many tools and techniques, technology, brand managers can connect to their customer directly also, which can be supplementary, complementary to the medical reps. But right now, in this scenario, the power is more to the brand manager because of the digitalization of the whole system. Shouldn't they take more responsibility for the sales delivery?
I think no, in the current performance management system, already the understanding about the brand manager having a responsibility for the brand attached to him or her. The sales is measured, and that's how his performance is also getting rated. So I think that is already part of the brand manager as a responsibility of achieving the desired business objectives, not only by financial measurement, but also by the character measurements. So it is certainly going to be there, and they have to work out the ways and means of how to ensure that the sales team runs with the same thinking of the brand manager towards fulfilling the aspiration or objectives of that brand. So that would be my response on that. Whether they should have more responsibility. I think they are responsible for their attached brands' financial performance as well as character performance.
In the last, I would like to ask you to give your final recommendation to the industry, pharma industry, as well as to professionals. What is your take on this situation to retain the job or retain the employee?
Yeah. So is it for me or Vivek?
Both of you, one by one. Shankar, you can start.
Okay, so this is one of the answer for which I have made a note of it, Pranav and the team here, is that currently we are talking about the question about the jobs in jeopardy, but till the month of January or February, every pharma company was talking about attrition as an issue. Any company you take, the field force vacancy or the attrition, how to fulfill the attrition, that was a bigger challenge. Attrition was something between 15 to 20% in many good companies, and maybe 30% or so in not so good companies. Now, this current situation, okay, expansion may not happen, field force may not expand, but I think the organization will continue to work without filling the vacancies. The organization, in terms of some of the markets where their PCPM is not on par with the interested portfolios market, in those markets, a company may club a couple of territories in that locality together so that one person can work with a few brands more effectively. So these changes are likely to happen in terms of how to fine tune your field force productivity in a much better way, so that the organization doesn't bleed and the organization comes back on track very quickly. And for this, the field force should be ready. Now, I am in my particular market, and from here, I will not move. Okay, I will continue to work the way I was working till December or January. That is very, very unlikely to take that individual to a very, very positive light. In fact, around us, we are going to see that not very many companies are looking at recruiting people. I certainly hear that this is the usual increment time, May and June. In this year, many companies have actually postponed or pushed the increments to subsequent period or indefinitely also. So at this point of time, the good thing is attrition is very unlikely to happen. The good thing is, which means continuity and consistency is going to be assured. If the management and the leadership takes the next step of developing and educating the people to manage the post-COVID scenario by the field force in a productive way, I think the industry will bounce back to its normal situation very comfortably, added with the support of digital initiatives by the marketing team. So that's how I look at it. And I want the attitude for marketing and the sales team to change to align more with the organization in terms of bouncing back the financial health of the company. I know an analogy I will give. This is like a river whitewater rafting. In whitewater rafting, there is no hierarchy. Okay, there is maybe one coach in the center of the 8-member or 12-member raft, and the water is unpredictable. It is swirling with the current and too much of twists and turns. So every guy acts with the responsibility and work with a significant amount of communication with each other. I think if you do show that type of an attitude to bring the raft back into its position, I think we are in for a good phase in the pharma industry. And I will only recall, for Indian pharma industry is the pharmacy to the world. So we are in for a very good phase after about a couple of months, 3-4 months. So we need to adjust to the new scenario. And I think your next week's program from the HR perspective will certainly help in terms of what all the way we can prepare for that.
Vivek.
Can I answer the question in a little different way?
Sure, please.
In 2015, TCS terminated the services of 25,000 people. And the whole industry was aghast. A Tata company terminating 25,000 people. And there was a lot of hullabulla about these 25,000 people being terminated from TCS. And then the HR head at that time, he came out with a beautiful answer which was published in the press. He said, if you do not innovate, if you do not learn, and if you do not apply the updated updated skills in day-to-day practice, if you do not apply the new knowledge in the practice, you will be replaced by persons who are better than you and those with modern skills. The last sentence which he said was very important. I had to terminate these 25, we had to take the decision to terminate these 25,000 people because I had another 3 lakh employees whose jobs had to be protected. With these 25,000 people would have been a hindrance.
Thank you, Professor Vivek. Thank you, Shankar, for being in this interesting discussions. I'm sorry that we could not take the questions of many people. There are more than 110 people joined here live, and I'm sure 600-700 people who has registered for this series is going to watch this our YouTube. Same will be posted in YouTube tomorrow. I request all of you to subscribe the YouTube channel so that you will get notified there in YouTube. And I look forward to all of you again next session, next Friday, with the president HR of a big company, big Indian company, as well as a professor from Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore. With this, thank you everybody. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very much.